we see him standing there all cool and muscular, and then we see him almost like a corpse in the actual helicopter.
Yeah.
And then we see him never again. So
Never again.
very quick, he could have very quickly deteriorated.
We're ranking injuries that should have been fatal. We've got 10 of them. It's going to be a good time. Welcome to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. Thank you so much to both our audio podcast and our YouTube viewers for joining us. I am Brody, joined by Tudong Dylan.
Hey.
And the Superboy of these Teen Titans, Charlie Hickman.
Always nice to see you guys.
If you haven't already, we'd love it if you subscribe so that way you can come back here every Wednesday and hang out and have some fun. Fellas, are you ready to rank some injuries that should have been fatal?
Let's do it.
Definitely.
If you haven't guessed, these are movie injuries. This is our second time we've done this. Because when Tudong put this list together, there were too many. And we said we could do multiple episodes of this. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing multiple episodes.
So many times when people should just have been dead. Movies over.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to the screen. If you've never seen one of our rankings before, what we've done is we've gathered together 10 injuries that should have been fatal. We'll go through them. We're going to shuffle these all up, put them in a pile, and bring them out one by one and give them a ranking. Now, just because it comes out and goes to one place doesn't mean it's stuck there. It may move up, may move down, depending on what Dylan says. All right.
Oh, wow.
So let's just quickly go through this list, and then we'll get into the ranking. So first off, we have First Blood when Rambo jumps off the cliff into a tree. We have Pineapple Express smoke inhalation. This guy coming out of a house that's on fire. Monty Python on the Holy Grail, the Black Knight getting all of his limbs removed. Evil Dead 2, Ash's hand removal by chainsaw. We have Casino Royale's So Brutal, flipping car crash. Just flipped so many times. We have Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker fighting a foot off of the lava.
If even that.
Pulp Fiction, the overdose, so Mia getting a shot of adrenaline straight into her heart. Rocky IV, the beatdown that he took from Ivan Drago. Predator, Dutch outrunning the explosion. We don't know what kind of explosion. Looked near nuclear.
Yes, we do. We'll go into it. We'll go into it.
All right. And then from Snatch, we have Boris the Blade, just cars and guns and so many injuries. He really should have been dead.
A long time ago. Yeah.
All right. So as we go through these, Tudong's going to give us a little explanation, just in case maybe you aren't familiar with this. You're saying, that doesn't sound so bad. Rambo jumping off a cliff right here. Yeah, he landed in a tree. No. Tudong's going to tell us why it should have been fatal. All
exactly right.
Guys, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Charlie, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So first up, as I said, we have Rambo's jump off a cliff. Tudong, why was this fatal? Why should it have been fatal?
Well, thank you for asking, Brode. They actually did a clip of this, and it turns out that Stallone did the stunt himself and broke one of his ribs. And he's really lucky that that's all that happened. It was done in several different takes. And the one take where he actually hits the tree, he broke a rib. He didn't do this all in one take, although he did a lot of this stuff. And it is insane how they did all of this. It was way, in the early 80s, and he was just blood and guts of it. And it should have broken his back, his neck, even if and that's just if he did hit the tree. If he missed the tree, it would have broken his skull and probably everything else. I don't know how he clung on to that tree. And when you hear him cry out, that's him with his broken ribs. It's funny how Stallone has two of these on this list. But yeah, no, this one should have absolutely killed Rambo. There's no plausible, I'm not saying possible, but plausible way that he wouldn't have kind of just destroyed his entire body. And even if he didn't die, which he would have, I don't know. I mean, like, they would have just run down there and caught him because he would have been in no shape to run away. Now, this isn't one of the most deadly ones. Like, he may possibly have been able to survive it, but it's just exceedingly implausible.
All right, so where are we putting this? Upper five,
I wouldn't
bottom
rank
five.
this too.
How about that?
Bottom 5.
Yeah, bottom 5.
Okay, we thinking like mid, like
Yeah,
seven.
put 7 for now.
Huh?
Yeah, let's put it at 7.
7
For now.
for now. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, the Black Knight.
Okay, now the Black Knight from the Holy, I'm sorry, Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail. Wow, and this scene where basically, with almost no effort, it's as if his limbs were attached with butter and nothing else, because he basically has the sword and touches his shoulder or his leg, and it lops it clean off. Now, it makes sense that he wouldn't really care because he has to have been in incredible shock because he has lost just an entire limb and then both arms and then both legs. So it makes sense that he's still kind of like, well, I'll bite your kneecaps off. Yeah, because he probably is bleeding out. He has no arms and legs, cannot get help. It's medieval England, or it's newer because some of them takes place in medieval England and some of it takes place in maybe in the current at the time England. But there's no way anybody would have survived this, whether it be back in medieval England or even right now. This is very implausible because he just gets chopped up to pieces and you don't see him die. He seems pretty okay. But no, there's no possible way he continued on to the next scene with still any breath. I mean, this would be in the upper 5 for me because yikes.
Now, Brody, your wife's connected to the medical field, which basically
true.
makes you an expert.
Basically, yeah.
If the sword was hot enough, could it cauterize the wounds as it sliced? Just leaving a nice
I mean,
so
we learned
keep all that blood
from,
inside that little stump.
from Star Wars that you could actually cut off a limb and it would cauterize. But this is a sword.
Well, that's a lightsaber, though.
and would have to maintain such a hot temperature. I'm not sure how it would work. I don't think that it could be cauterized.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's plenty of blood coming out of there, and
there's a lot of
cutting
blood
off
just
the right
squirting
leg
out.
and the right arm are major arteries. He would have been dead very, very quickly. I mean, just with the right arm or the right leg, he would have been very, very quickly, inside of minutes, dead. So after he was looking around, he's probably like, and then he passes away very, very quickly. This, like I said, would be up there. Even in Sleepy Hollow, the blade was hot from the fires of hell in order to cauterize it as soon as it happened. This guy bleeds out in minutes, if not seconds, because of both of the major arteries that have been cut. Yikes!
Yeah,
I would
probably should have died after the first limb was cut off,
probably,
and then he lost
but he was
3
in
more.
shock. He was in shock, and he should be in shock because yikes! The human body is like, you don't need to deal with this on an intellectual level. Just take a back seat. Take a back seat. So yeah, I mean,
Where
I
do we
put
want
this
this?
at 1 or 2 because this guy is dead.
Charlie, what do you think?
I'm comfortable with it. Yeah, top 3 for sure. I mean, yeah, he dead.
Well, let's start it at 3.
3? Okay, and then we'll see if it moves up. I think it definitely can.
It should.
All right, next up we have
should.
Dutch's outrunning the explosion.
Now, Dutch running at the very end after the Predator blows itself up. They say that this took out an entire, maybe several city blocks in seconds. It had a mushroom cloud, so it was a nuclear explosion. Now, I did learn if the mushroom cloud is white, there's not as much fallout, or you don't have to worry about as much fallout. But if it's dark, that means it mixed with the atmosphere of the Earth, and there's a lot of fallout.
Interesting.
And I don't remember that. I'm shocked that the helicopter, it didn't crash because of an EMP. So they must have been far enough away to not have had to deal with that. Or if there was any from that nuclear explosion. But there's a dust cloud. There was a mushroom cloud of nuclear proportions.
It was a big explosion.
It was the big explosion. It made sure he was dead. And so for Dutch to run, I mean, it's Schwarzenegger. He's Mr. Olympian, but he's not an Olympic level runner per se. So it's difficult for me to think, hey, he outran that nuclear explosion that was like a 10-block radius. I don't think I could outrun a 5-block radius, let alone a 2-block radius. Even in all the seconds that he was given, it's very highly unlikely. And you even see it kind of blast its way through. He did kind of jump, and everybody knows from 80s movies, if you jump, you're gonna be okay. That's scientific. That's science right there. Yep. That's science. So I would definitely put it maybe 5, maybe 6. I mean, it's not a good scenario to be in.
I mean,
nuclear explosions are bad.
You mentioned the point I was going to bring up this is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Obviously, he's going to be able to withstand a lot of fallout, a lot of blast power. Maybe 6. I'm thinking 5 or 6, because nuclear explosions are very difficult to deal with. But if you're Schwarzenegger in the 80s, stick around. He might not survive, but
might not survive. Now, I mean, we don't see him again, and all of a sudden we got Danny Glover in Predator 2, and perhaps that's because the cancer.
It's true.
Whatever alien
maybe it was fatal.
Well, we see him looking almost dead in the helicopter. He's like lying back there, just like
they just needed one of those a few moments later little bubbles to pop up, and maybe he's just bubbling over. But yeah, hey, I'll never underestimate Arnold. So he probably should have died. Anyone else would have died.
Anybody else vaporized.
Yeah, anybody. Yeah, instant. But Arnold, you're maybe bottom 5 here, because man, in the 80s, Arnold could do anything.
What if we put this at 7 and we put the cliff a little bit lower?
Okay.
Because I mean that cliff, yikes.
You mean lower like 6, or like lower like 8? Like lower on the top 10, or lower number?
Oh, lower on the top 10, like 8 or 9 or 10, okay. And then putting the bomb at like a 7.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, Charlie, I never thought about that. We do never see him again. It's possible that this did kill him.
Well, that's true, actually. That is true. We see him standing there all cool and muscular, and then we see him almost like a corpse in the actual helicopter.
Yeah.
And then we see him never again. So he could have very quickly deteriorated. He was fine, and then he got into the helicopter and he melted.
His skin just fell off. All right,
it's alien technology, so maybe it's just designed to blow only straight up in the air. So who knows?
That's true.
Next up, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, speaking of melting. Yeah.
Speaking of melting, so they've got two. Well, we've got a Jedi and we've got a Sith, and they are fighting with what could cauterize you very instantly.
Yeah.
Lightsabers. However, once they start. When you have a flame, when you have fire, the hottest part is like right above it. And they are right above boiling lava that is flowing in between them. Like right on top of it. I don't know how they didn't have their skin boiled off. If they used the Force, you'd think that they would be like using the actual Force, and they're like, this was a horrible place to do this. Can we go anyplace else? Like, why did we go towards the lava? But hey, here we are, standing on top of somehow these devices of theirs. It looks like they have some kind of a blast shield on them because it's not melting, but they should be boiling over. I don't understand how, like I said, unless they're using the Force, I don't even see it. You see, even on the bottom of those, whatever they're standing on, it has some kind of blast shield. Fine, okay, I get it. The machinery has something that'll make it so that it can survive being close to lava, but they don't have that. They should be boiled alive. They should be nothing but not even skeletons at this point. They are steamed Jedi, like steamed clams. I don't understand. This should have been very, very quick death, and they stay there.
I do want to make the point that this is alien lava. So maybe alien lava is at a lower temperature than Earth lava.
It's possible.
Okay. Well, that's very true. Well, hey, you know what? Let's
It's like
give
a
them the benefit of the doubt.
102 degrees.
Like less.
It's like a nice warm. It's like standing over a jacuzzi, maybe. I don't
Instead
know.
of 1,000 degrees, it's only 900 degrees. Okay, all right, fair enough. So maybe they're not deep fried shrimp. Maybe instead they're like a steamed clams, but they have zero. And you even see Anakin by the lava river. He doesn't even touch the lava, and he combusts into fire, and it burns him completely. He doesn't fall in, and he's completely burned to pieces.
No.
They're closer to it standing on right there. How did they not catch on fire or just
true.
burn them alive or
So
just boil them alive?
realistically, Tudong, since you are the expert on death, how quickly should they have died?
The extra of death. They probably should have died if for some reason it was only 900 degrees instead of 1,000, and if they used the force, which it doesn't really appear that they're doing. I don't know how they could survive 5 minutes of this. Literal 5 minutes. They should have been like, it didn't even take a toll on them. He burnt to pieces. It's inside, like his lungs. I've like seen a lot of different things on the the various wounds that Darth Vader has. It burnt inside and out. His lungs were destroyed.
Where are we thinking that? Where are we thinking?
This should be top 5. These guys should have been boiled alive. Like,
where are metachlorians stored? Is it in the bloodstream? And if so,
I think so.
Is
Yeah,
that affected
blood.
when you singe the insides of your lungs?
Well,
and then
I don't
replace
know.
your whole body?
That's an excellent question. I don't know the one thing that I've heard a lot of different people who have studied a lot of the books that came out. They say that if you lose actual mass, like if you get your arm cut off, like Anakin did, his metachlorian count, it's not so bad. But if you get like 4 or 5, like all of them, he was then at like half the potential that he was supposed to be at. Maybe like a little bit less than half the potential he could have with all of his limbs. So I'm not sure if burning inside your lungs would also incapacitate you, but with the lack of actual mass, like arms and legs, because he had no more arms and legs, his metachlorian count went way down.
Okay,
but that's both of them should have been very much boiled alive.
So
they don't even break a sweat.
I agree. Top 5.
I mean,
where are we thinking in the top 5?
We could say 2 or 4.
2. I think that this would to me, I think this would kill you faster than the Black Knight
losing all your blood. Yeah, they probably have maybe a couple of minutes, whereas the Black Knight, with both of his arm and his leg, it should be seconds. I don't know how they survived minutes. Yeah, I'd say 2. Let's go with 2. Because
are we considering the fact that Jedis both are very easy to kill, but then also can fly in space? So just depending on the environment, sometimes all you have to do is pull out a blaster, and then sometimes you can just you can breathe anywhere. So
well, that's true.
It does seem to be a wild. Are we giving any Jedi bonus here to put him above Jedi-less Black Knight?
That's a good point. That is a good point. They are Jedis. I say we put it at 4 because that Black Knight should have been dead in seconds. And these guys are Jedi, so they should have had, if they have the technology to protect their whatever they're standing on, they probably should have had something that use the Force. So I say 4, Brode. What do you think?
Sure. Charlie, you good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. We went a bit long on that one, so we'll try to speed these up a little bit.
You put Star Wars up, bud. What do you
I know.
That's a very good point.
A whole episode just on that one issue.
Now,
stupid metachlorians.
I hate that so much. Metachlorians.
All right, next up we got Pulp Fiction.
Mia Wallace getting a shot of adrenaline into her heart with a very large needle, put in there by somebody who's probably already on drugs. I think he already is doing heroin, and I do not. And if you watch it, it's a very nerve-wracking thing. when you stick somebody in the heart like this, I can only assume stabbing somebody in the heart, whether it's with a needle or if it's with anything else, is probably going to do damage. Sticking it with adrenaline, I'm not. I mean, hey, Brody, your wife is the one who knows a lot about like this. This is something that you could actually find. You're not going to go into a hospital and see a Jedi being like, "Look, I had a lava fight with my Padawan." You're not going to see. You may see a knight being filleted like he was, but this is exceedingly not rare, and it would be a horrible idea because there's also things like infections. Like they just stick her. They should have got her to the hospital. Yes, that would have been their best bet because stabbing somebody in the heart and just pumping it full of adrenaline, I'm not sure exactly. Hey, I'm not a medical person, but I don't know how that would really get the drugs out of your system. And even if it did, the worst part of that, when I first saw it, I almost got sick when she was sitting there looking like she was going to take it out. I was like, oh no, don't do that. Don't pull it out. Go to a hospital. Let them pull it out. It's a bad idea. I don't think that it's as bad as getting all of your limbs cut nor falling off a cliff, really. But I mean, infection.
Yeah, you shouldn't be, ideally you should be going intravenously, not directly into the heart. And you can use adrenaline for like allergic reactions or cardiac arrest. And I don't know, I don't remember if it was cardiac arrest that she was in that did this to her, or it like
they wouldn't have known
caused that. But yeah,
she was she was ODing
for like, just an overdose. I don't think that adrenaline to the heart is gonna do the job.
And you don't need. You could put like EpiPens are the same as adrenaline, or at least they are like adrenaline. You can stick that in your leg, in a massive muscle, not your heart. So I mean, this was a terrible idea in the first place. But it's not like, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if it would be instant death. I'd put it lower than maybe 6, maybe 9, 6 or 9. Or maybe we move some of those around. Not in the top 5.
I think you can think of it like, okay, let's. So I've got several allergies. So let's say I somehow I ingest a bunch of peanuts and I'm dying on the floor. And then there's Brody and Dylan, and they're looking over here, and there's an adrenaline shot. They're like, okay, his heart is stopping. He can't breathe. Yeah. And then they proceed to have like a dialogue, a little witty banter back and forth for like several minutes while I'm dying on the floor. And then they finally decide, okay, you know what? I'll hit him with this adrenaline shot, which adrenaline shots can certainly restart the heart. But if it's not dealing with the underlying problem, which in my case would be the allergy, or in her case, the narcotics overdose, like she would need like a Narcan, like some kind of like to detox the drugs there. So it might restart the heart, but it's not going to fix what's killing her. So
sure.
It's but I mean, hey, medical science, miracles. Maybe she wasn't ODing as much as we thought. I put this bottom 5, but yeah, she should be dead.
Yeah,
I would put this lower than Rocky for sure. I think this would probably be a 9 or 10 for me. I think this is survivable.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you take her to the hospital, she's probably going to survive.
And Keith Richards then again, is still alive. I don't know what's going on. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's start at 9. What about 9?
Okay, yeah, let's go with 9.
All right, next up we have Rocky taking a beating from Ivan Drago.
Speaking of Rocky, yeah, there he is.
Oof. Speaking of Rocky, so
did
Rocky
I say Rocky before?
Rocky...
Yeah, you did, but that's okay.
Oh, I meant Rambo.
We got Stallone on both of these, and the funny thing is that when they were actually filming it, without any sort of malice or anything like that, he's like, "Hey, Lundgren." I'm not going to do the accent. Hey, Lundgren, let's kind of go at it a little bit. Like, you go ahead and like hit me and like actually really do it. And he's like, "All right, if you really want me to, I will." He had, at the end of the night, he had trouble breathing. He had to go rush to the hospital because he almost had. They were like, "Did you get hit by a truck?" And they're like, "No, he was." Doing a boxing scene with Dolph Lundgren. They're like, what the hey was he doing? It was a stupid thing that he did. His heart like enlarged and he almost died in real life. Like the way that he just gets pummeled in this, they would have stopped this fight so quickly in real life. if you see boxing matches, well, in boxing matches these days, if one person would have like one of these rounds, the person would have just quit. But before that, you even back in like the Ali Frazier days, like they would have stopped this very, very quickly. I'm flabbergasted that he survived to the to the end of the fight. He shouldn't have even like beaten him. He was beaten a lot. He kind of went in there. He stopped doing his like Apollo's training and just went face first into some severe punches. Tough to survive. Now, is it like getting hit by a nuclear bomb? Probably not. Is it like getting thrown off a cliff? No, but I mean, it is kind of like getting hit by a big truck. So I mean, I would say 5 or 6 on this one because he gets beaten very badly.
So Charlie, I know that most of your boxing experience has been in more like unsanctioned bar scenarios.
Sure.
That's true.
But you know, from your experience, how deadly do you think this fight would have been?
So super deadly, and I feel like this is something that we kind of all have agreed as an audience to just accept that, like, like Batman never kills, but also he just like absolutely pulverizes people with like iron glove fists, and no one ever has any brain bleeds or dies or whatever. This is great. I'm going to read you a quote from Stallone himself after the fight. I'm going to chop it up a little bit, but essentially he says, "He pulverized me. I didn't feel it in the moment, but later that night my heart started to swell. He bruised the pericardial sac, which is usually when the heart hits the chest, like a car accident. His blood pressure was up to 260. So I'm going to be talking to angels. Next thing you know, I'm in emergency low flight altitude to St. John's Hospital in intensive care, surrounded by nuns." And then he had to go back and finish the fight. 4 days he was in the hospital. 4 days.
Gosh.
And that's just from filming like this one little scene, let alone like the full fight. If we're just going through the full fight, people die, like real boxers in real boxing matches die. It's a horrific, violent sport. So to show something this one-sided with someone who is clearly has the size and strength advantage that Ivan Drago had over Rocky. After he's already killed another boxer in this universe. So it's not like we're suspending the disbelief that boxers can't die in this universe. Like in this very movie, somebody died. It's a little bit harder to kind of swallow that he's gonna be all right. So I think when you stack all that together, like he's kind of sure it's not as glamorous as being exploded by a nuclear from an alien, but he's a dead man. He's a dead man.
Yeah, I think, especially after hearing all that and knowing that Lundgren was probably not even boxing his full strength, when Drago would have been. Yeah, maybe this is like a number 5, maybe.
I can see that. Yeah. Like,
I mean, it sounds pretty high. If Stallone winds up in the hospital, that Rocky would have.
It makes more sense to believe that he fell off a cliff and survived instead of him getting pummeled by Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I mean, he only broke a rib on that stunt. I mean, that's like, come on, that's child's play.
All right, next up we have Pineapple Express's smoke inhalation. I don't know the character's name, but yeah,
character's name was Red, and he was shot multiple times. And like I don't think that there was anything else. I mean, he got into a fight with the other guys, and the whole place blew up, literally blew up, and he was inside, and somehow he gets out. Even if he survives the explosion, which is very, very, I say that with a huge grain of salt, the smoke inhalation should have killed him completely. It's but then again, people have survived lots of explosions. They've survived smoke inhalation, but I mean, it is shockingly rare for it to be at this level. I mean, he really should be dead. Like, as bad as, it's not a nuclear explosion, but it's pretty bad because he's in the midst of it. So it's pretty bad, but I mean, he also isn't getting pummeled by Dolph Lundgren. I could see this one as a 6. Because, I mean, yikes. Smoke inhalation is no joke either. People die from that before even dying from fires. Like, they'll be already dead before they're burned even.
And he was shot multiple times.
Multiple times.
You can't kill Danny McBride. Come on now.
You
But
can't kill. That's true.
so I love. There's a lot of accepted punch inconsistency in films where like one punch, and the guy's knocked out, and then you can hang a guy from a chain, and then he's coming back to shoot an Uzi at you outside. But smoke inhalation's one of like the Hollywood's like I think the least consistently done.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
People are just in fires for like forever. Even the most recent Spider-Man movie, or the video game, the first Spider-Man video game. If you're a video game fan, he's getting rescued from the smoke inhalation. Anyway, inhaling smoke, terrible, bad, lethal, and depending on the movie, TV show, or video game or book, it can be also not seemingly very harmful at all, and people can just be fine. So. But realistically, real life, he dead. But it's just not as fun as the other one. So I say
Yeah.
6.
It's true. It's not fun at all. Just you're like, oh, they're dead.
Nah,
they
man.
cough themselves to
He's
death.
just a dead guy. Maybe he's just been training his lungs. Maybe that's what that whole movie really is about. Is just training
Maybe.
his lungs
Ah,
Maybe.
that's it. There you
to
go.
handle smoke inhalation. So
He was
like, I've
after he got
been
shot.
after this.
All right. So
and
where
the
are we
bullet holes
thinking?
help release the smoke. So like
Oh,
That's
the
true.
smoke's coming
Just
in,
some extra.
and then out the
Very
bullet
good
hole.
point.
That's science.
That's from A to B right there.
Yeah.
Science.
You see your buddy dying of smoke inhalation, poke a few holes in him, let the smoke out.
It'll be fine. Let the smoke out.
I popped like
All right.
several holes in his lungs. He was great.
So where are we thinking for this? Do we want to move anything? Do we just want to plop it at 6?
Well, why don't we put the nuclear blast at 6 and put him at 7? Because I think it's worse than falling off a cliff, and it's definitely worse than the needle.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. All right, next up we have the Casino Royale car crash.
Wow.
And
Now,
I remember
had a
watching
friend-
this in theaters and being like, oh
you
my
kidding me?
goodness, that car flipped so many times.
At the time in Casino Royale, that was actually a world record for how many times that car flipped in the air before it landed. There's no way somebody's going to survive. A friend of mine got hit by a car, like he was driving a car and a car hit him and it turned the car around and he had to be airlifted into like a different hospital because it crushed parts of his intestine. Like it was bad and it didn't even total the car. This, on the other hand, should be 1,000% fatal. This is worse than the needle into the lungs. It's probably right up there with getting hit with Dolph Lundgren. I could see this at 4 and like moving the Jedi and the Knight up a bit because it's very. I mean, I'm going back and forth on which would be worse: getting hit by Dolph Lundgren or this. And this is bad. This has got to be worse.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I was thinking 4. That was my first
Yeah, let's
thought.
put it at 4.
Sounds good. Yeah, if you haven't seen the scene and you don't feel like watching the
Oh.
whole movie, do yourself a favor and just look it up on YouTube. You will not be disappointed.
It is hilarious that I was like, they're gonna pull out a corpse now, I guess. And I was like, wow, he's just a little groggy. He's okay. He didn't lose a limb or anything.
I mean, he didn't even jump, so I mean, you can't
Yeah.
survive that without a jump.
All right, next up, Evil Dead 2 with losing the hand via chainsaw.
Now, wow, his hand got possessed, so he had to cut it off. Something I've had to do plenty of times. It's fine. It's no real big deal. Number 10.
It's true.
I'm only kidding. I'm just kidding. You never should cut off any part of you, unless, of course, it's possessed, folks. And you know it's possessed. And even then, I don't recall him cauterizing it. I mean, you see him duct tape it shut, and that's really it.
Hey, duct
And he-
tape can do anything.
It's true. It's a very good point. I would put this lower because it's not like you've fallen off a cliff and it's not like your heart has gotten injured. But I mean, getting your hand ripped off by a chainsaw is really
Chainsaw.
bad news.
A
Yeah, a
chainsaw.
chainsaw. It's not like a clean cut like the Knight got in Monty Python. But I mean, it just tears it up. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's your hand or getting stabbed in the heart. I mean, I would put
I would almost think that if you did that, you would probably just like go
You'd
into
probably
shock,
you'd
pass
go into
out.
shock.
You
Yeah,
go into
yeah,
shock, pass
definitely.
out, and just die.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
now, just a little devil's advocate. There was a movie called 127 Hours based on a guy who had to
Oh
like chop
yeah,
his own arm off and,
mm, it's
and with
true.
like a crude implement and then hike back to like, you know, civilization. And he made it.
It's true.
So
It's a good point. It's a very good point.
I'm most likely outcome of that movie as well as death. So I mean that guy would
Yeah,
bless him, and I'm glad I wouldn't bank on that being a survivable situation, but it's possible you lose the hand and
it's a
he's okay.
That's
it,
true. That's a very
it's a
good point.
very good point. It's a very
Not
good point.
nearly as much blood splatter as the Monty Python guy either. There was no
True.
that wasn't
That's
like
true.
rain in blood.
Well, actually, when you see him and he's like, "Who's laughing now?" and he's like,
That's true.
"Rah!" and it really splashes blood, and you're
That's
just
true.
like,
That's true.
"Oh, wow." So it
Yeah, that's
wasn't
fair.
as bad,
All
but
right.
it certainly wasn't good. I don't know if I mean, still, I don't know how you come back from getting stabbed in the heart with one of those. Like, how do you not get an infection and just like not immediately, but very quickly die? But I mean, this one you could go into shock. You still could figure it out. I mean, if you did
That's
like a
true.
tourniquet,
Yeah.
but I don't know how you could survive the stab in
Yeah.
the heart without going to the hospital. So I mean, I'm voting for 10.
That's good for me.
Okay.
All right. Oh, and that's the number one, unless we want
Ooh,
to switch them
unless we want
around.
to switch it, let's see. Let's see.
I've already forgotten.
Me too.
Nope, it's
Oh wow,
Snatch.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Boris the Blade or
Oh,
Boris
Boris.
the Bullet Dodger. He gets shot multiple times. He gets full on hit by a car, which should
just
have killed him. In fact, right in this part right here, he's about to get hit full on by a
Oh.
car. This is, and he gets shot after this as well. He's the Bullet Dodger. How he does it, he dies eventually by getting shot. But this is pretty bad because getting shot, getting beaten, and then getting hit by a car like this, I mean, you could survive it, but you'd really need to go to the hospital. You can't just walk it off. You have so many bones broken.
and
So many bones broken.
this scene in particular of him getting hit by the
Yeah.
car. You know, if you're getting hit by a car, you can kind of like
Ugh.
roll, you can tuck, you can try to, get like he's got a bag over his head. He doesn't know it's coming. He's just
Ugh.
standing
He gets just straight hit.
up and just gets hit. He didn't even see it coming. So it was just super stiff. He took that that car crash.
Yeah. Now
yeah,
that
this-
doesn't mean now you okay. Hey, people have survived gunshots. People have survived getting hit by cars. People have almost been killed by getting hit by Dolph Lundgren, and you definitely would get hit or you would die from like the multiple car flip. So,
So
I
you're
don't know if
thinking
I would
this is
put-
a bit lower then?
Yeah, yes, I am because like people, like I said, people have survived beating gunshots and getting hit by cars. He's going to be exceedingly hurt. But I mean, is it as bad as like the knight getting 4 limbs just lopped right off? No, like that's immediate death, and like being boiled alive in lava and getting like flipped by a car and punched by Dolph Lundgren, and then a nuclear blast.
Okay, so where are you thinking on this then?
I think we should move it up and put it at like what was it? What's 7 right there?
7 is the smoke inhalation.
I don't know if it's worse than smoke inhalation. It probably is worse than smoke inhalation. I think probably like move 6 up and all the others up and like put it at 6. Because I mean it's
Charlie?
bad, but I mean it's terrible pain. But
I'm good with that. Just because everything else is kind of like one scene, and this is like over a few
Yeah.
scenes. So give it. It's certainly unrealistic that he survived, but
Okay, so
I haven't seen that movie in a while. I gotta watch that again.
I've got a couple questions.
okay.
So Black Knight and Lava. Do we want to keep Black Knight ahead of Lava?
Yeah. I mean that should be seconds, and he's not a Jedi or a Sith.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're saying that Black Knight number one absolutely should have been fatal.
Absolutely. He got 2 different major arteries cut.
Unsurvivable. There's no and you got an era specific. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
And
in seconds he would lose blood, all that blood.
then Casino Royale car crash. We want to keep that over Ivan Drago.
Yeah, because like that car flip. Hey, Stallone got hit by a car. But this car flipped so many times. There's like a 0% chance of survivability. Is it as bad or as quick as the night or the lava? Probably not. It won't kill you as quick, but he's not going to survive. He'll survive maybe several minutes after that. I mean, that's a terrible crash. Remember,
Because
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking like, okay, he had his seatbelt on. They're probably airbags. I think it would have been fatal. But I'm also like thinking of Dolph Lundgren just punching your head. You're getting multiple concussions. You're getting body shots. You could be
So
breaking
you want
ribs.
to
You could be like, there is so much that could go wrong with Dolph Lundgren just wailing.
punching you. So you want to put the Lundgren at 3?
I think I'm thinking Lundgren at 3 over the
Okay,
car
I
crash.
can think.
I don't know.
Okay, you know what?
What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I think that's fair given the universes that they exist in. I think we can bump Rocky up because in that universe, boxers die when they get punched. And in Casino Royale, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the James Bond universe where you're like, maybe less so in the Casino Royale films than some of the predecessors, or Pierce Brosnan is doing some pretty magical stuff. But
It is
maybe that's the kind of universe where you can survive a car flipping over, unlike our universe. But are we too low on the alien explosion, or is it just right because we cannot confirm that it was in fact nuclear and it could just be an alien firework that had a lot of color to it?
It is true. We saw him standing up and then sitting down afterwards, and it was Schwarzenegger.
And then we never saw him again.
But I
guess
guess
if we move that up, then we have to put like every 80s movie where there's a grenade or a bomb going off and someone's like 10 feet away jumping and then they're fine.
I love
or
that.
getting just underwater while an explosion happens all around. So they're like, oh, we're good.
We're just fine because we've thrown it. Yeah, that should be higher than the Boris thing. Because I said, like, you could survive.
Yeah, Arnold was further away. I mean, the car crash, like James Bond is inside that car that flipped 15, 20 times. It's just, it just kept going. I think it's still flipping right now.
It's still flipping right now. Yeah, this isn't actually a GIF. It's just one long. This whole time, it's just been flipping.
Yeah, that's the actual scene.
Flipping for a while.
All right, put Boris at 6 or 7, and then let's call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are good with this?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go through this list. This is the official Talk Punch listing, volume 2 of injuries that should have been fatal. We've got Ash and dismembering his hand with a chainsaw.
Sure. Yes.
We've got Mia getting adrenaline straight into the heart with a needle. Who knows if it was clean or not?
Oh.
We've got Rambo jumping off a cliff right into a tree. Very big cliff. We've got Red and his smoke inhalation after being shot.
Blown up.
And blown up. We've got Boris the Blade getting shot and just repeatedly shot and then getting hit by cars and then shot some more. We've got Dutch outrunning a nuclear, possibly, explosion.
Potentially nuclear blast. Oh.
A very big explosion.
He just needed a fridge.
He did. We've got James Bond surviving one of the worst car crashes in movie history. We've got Rocky surviving Ivan Drago. We've got Anakin and Obi-Wan surviving, just hovering above the lava. And then we have the Black Knight surviving all of his limbs, arms and legs getting chopped off and just being okay.
Bleeding out. Oh, yeah. I love that being beat up by Dolph Lundgren is number 3 on here. He beat a possible nuclear alien blast. It's
I mean, he's got 2
beautiful.
nukes right there, baby.
He does. He does. All
He still
right.
got
Well,
it, too.
there you go.
Mhm.
You guys have anything else to add to this?
It's good. Good list.
It's a good list.
All right, Charlie, you want to close us out?
Yeah. All right. Will you let us know your order, or if maybe a top 3 if you don't feel like doing all 10, and drop some more ideas. Maybe there's some other. Maybe you're thinking of John McClane jumping off an exploding building with a fire hose around his waist, or some other fun should be dead scenes. Give us your ideas. We always have fun with these lists, but especially this topic is great. So look out for more videos just like this one below, and make sure you click that like and subscribe for the below the most glorious beard you're ever gonna see.
Don't fight Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, please don't. My goodness.